What's going on? It's your boy Sermon at Sermon's Domain on Twitter. Eminem has me nervous. Not vomit on my sweater nervous, but knee deep in curiosity nervous for his ninth album titled Revival. Will M take a different approach? Is this the reinvention that he desperately needs? Walk on Water leads me to believe that the answers to both of those questions will be yes. My hopes aren't too high, but I feel like I'm going into this with a more positive perspective than most people I see online. Everybody has been trashing it from the first two singles to the track listing to the cover. Like everybody's been so, on this Eminem just hate him type of thing. And I'm waiting till the album comes out. I should say I waited until the album came out to really form an opinion on the music. I didn't sit here and go, this album is going to be whack. This is going to be the best album ever. It's going to be the worst album ever. No, I went into it with a fresh perspective. So what did I come out with? Well, for one, I did have a few favorite songs, and that is more than I really expected. My first favorite record is River featuring Ed Sheeran. When I saw this on the track listing, I thought this was going to be one of my favorites early on. 2017 was the year that I really discovered Ed Sheeran. I know I'm probably sleeping on him and everything, but I really loved his album Divide. And so at the very least, I figured, well, if Eminem botches this song, at least we'll have a good Ed Sheeran hook out of it. Ed Sheeran didn't disappoint either. His hook is one of the strongest parts of the song. It really ties the whole story together. I firmly believe that if you give Eminem a concept, he will run with it and he'll actually focus on that instead of, sprouting a bunch of lyrics trying to show that he's like the greatest or, a bunch of bad lyrics. That's another thing that you get a lot of on Revival that I'll talk about in a little bit. Going back to River, though, the story is really deep. It's surprisingly deeper than I expected. It's about a man who cheats on his girl. His girl finds out, and instead of, letting it be known or anything like that, she goes and gets revenge with Eminem. It's such an odd, little concept, but it's still cool nonetheless. So what was supposed to be one night turned into several. And that leads to a pregnancy, which eventually leads to an abortion. There's all these secrets and lies that are just running through the song, and it is really good. I feel like Eminem really nailed the concept, and he kept most of the cheesy lines away from this song. My other favorite record is Bad Husband featuring Ex-Ambassadors. On Marshall Mathers LP 2, Eminem apologized to his mom. On Bad Husband, Eminem apologizes to Kim, and it's really the grown-up direction that he should go in terms of how it works for him. I'm not saying the whole albums or his whole existence has to be apologizing to people, but I think it works in this regard. It shows him grown up, and that's what a lot of people want out of M. They want to see Eminem actually grown up. In the same way that a Jay-Z did with 444. Eminem is no longer the psycho wielding a chainsaw. He can look back on his life and his career and admit his mistakes. During the hook, Ex-Ambassadors sing, "Why are you a good father, great dad, but a bad husband?" It's a question that M doesn't even have an answer for on this song, because he repeats the same, the same question. He wonders the same thing. It's a complicated affair, but it's one that should be that way. There should not be a simple answer to it. I like that he's able to look at his past objectively and create a record like Bad Husband. My two honorable mentions are, first, Walk on Water featuring Beyonce. I like the song. I like the honesty that M brought. Beyonce's hook is marvelous, fantastic, a bunch of other adjectives that describe just that. My other honorable mention is Like Home featuring Alicia Keys. I like this song because, again, it's M focusing on a concept. This time he's going after Trump. And it's not just like some loose freestyle where he's talking about coffee pots and dumping them on Donald Trump. No, this is actually him looking at what's going on, attacking Donald Trump for being the idiot that he is, and it's ultimately just a great song. Alicia Keys' hook is kind of just there for me. I wasn't like blown away by it, but it works. If I had to rip Big Sean for having such horrible lyrics on Double or Nothing, Eminem is hardly excused from the same treatment. I look at some of these lines that Eminem writes and I'm thinking, like, how childish are these? I can't imagine anybody outside of Eminem finding these funny and thinking, that's a good line, it's a dope line. It kind of reminds me of like Vince McMahon, who people that have worked with Vince have said that he'll do things simply to entertain himself. Only things that he'll find enjoyment out of. And that's what I get from M. I can imagine M like writing these lyrics or recording these lyrics, listening back and laughing to himself. But for me, I'm just listening to some of these lines. I'm like, these are awful. And I think it's even worse for M because he's lauded as such an elite MC. Every rapper has bad lines, but M's bad lines are just downright embarrassing. So I wanted to talk about a couple of them that were just like the worst. The ones that you just have to know about. The first was, I'm looking at your tight rear like a sightseer. Your booty is heavy duty like diarrhea. M needs to leave the fart jokes or diarrhea stuff alone. He's in his 40s. None of that stuff is really funny. Like, I don't understand. Like a skunk in heat, I could sweat her. So he says it like sweater, you know, you get hot when you wear a sweater. A skunk kind of has like a sweater. It just doesn't do anything. I didn't find the line really good. It jumped out at me because it was bad. Another one, my competition can't see me because I don't own a mirror. Now, that one isn't as bad as the others, but it's still embarrassing for someone as big as Eminem. As great of a lyricist as Eminem is supposed to be, this is not the line that you would expect. I would expect this from, like, you know, one of the average MCs that tries to act like he's better than what he really is. And don't even get me started on another line. There was another line that I didn't even want to talk about, where he talks about how he's so narcissistic that he'll smell his own farts. How? How does that get past anything? Why is Paul Rosenberg or Mr. Porter or anybody that's working with M on this album saying, is this really the type of stuff that you want to make? I mean, I feel like Eminem has a bunch of yes men around him. Otherwise, you would have people saying, M, you should probably do better than this. You're capable of doing better than this. And those are just a few of the lines. There are more. And some that are just like, you know, in the background and they're like, they don't jump out at you as much as like these ones that I quoted. But they're still there and they still add up to the point where you're just like, damn, I'm just not feeling a lot of these songs. I feel like Eminem tricked me. Walk on Water gave me a lot of hope that this album was going to be something different. It wasn't going to be Eminem with these bad lines and, you know, some of these beats that aren't really like spectacular or notable. I feel like M was going to do something different with this album, but ultimately he just falls into his same pattern. This is another bad album from Eminem that would sound better if it was just a short EP. I found 5 to 6 songs on here that I actually enjoyed, which is a lot more than I was expecting. Those are the ones that I'll keep. The ones that I mentioned in my favorites, and then like Tragic Ending with Skylar Grey. Like, I'm enjoying those type of records. Those records where M is actually focused on the concept and really saying something. Those are the ones that would make a good EP. I think at this point we have to revisit the conversation that Eminem is one of the greatest of all time. I don't think it's a true statement. Now, don't get me wrong, Eminem has a classic album or two in his discography, but ultimately it's kind of hard to crown someone like one of the greatest if their music has seen such a decline and continues to do that. With Revival, it's hardly a revival or a rejuvenation. It does, however, give a small glimmer of hope. I think, like I said, if this was a short EP with just the focused Eminem songs, maybe people would think about it differently. So those are my thoughts on Eminem's latest album, Revival. After you listen to it, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. I definitely want to hear some thoughts. I want to, discuss and debate. Let's do that in a, not necessarily like in a negative way. Let's do that positively. Let's talk about it. If you disagree with how I view this album, tell me why. Tell me your point of view, and we'll discuss it. Afterwards, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, share the video. Follow me on Twitter at @SermonsDomain, and as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate you for watching, and until next time, peace.